Welcome to our deep dive, everybody. Today we're going to get into irrationality. How our emotions can really mess things up for us
Yeah,
and what we can maybe do about it.
sounds familiar.
It's always a relevant topic,
That's
right?
right.
We're using Robert Greene's The Laws of Human Nature as a guide, specifically Chapter 1. It's called The Law of Irrationality.
Okay.
Now, you might think irrationality, yeah, that's for those conspiracy folks
Yeah.
or people buying lottery tickets every day. But
Right.
Greene says it's not like that. He says it's just part of being human. It's kind of baked into us, and it affects, all our choices, even when we don't know it. Greene uses a story about this leader in ancient Athens, Pericles. He really highlights this whole thing.
Okay.
So Pericles was super logical in a society that was all about drama. They often made, impulsive choices, especially about politics and war.
I see.
It makes you wonder, how did he stay so rational in that environment?
Yeah. It was a chaotic time. Pericles was interesting, though. He knew his fellow Athenians very, very well, and he realized their decisions, they were all driven by this hunger for power, attention, and money.
Oh, wow.
And you saw this play out in the Athenian assembly, right?
Yeah.
Thousands of citizens all in one place, debating, voting on important stuff. Can you imagine being there?
Oh, I can only imagine. Especially with the threat of war with Sparta.
Exactly. Pericles saw right through all that chaos, though. He said it was all these unchecked emotions. That's what was at the root of all the bad decisions and the political instability.
Interesting. So what was his solution?
Well, he had this idea. He called it Inner Athena. It's all about representing rationality and wisdom.
Oh,
He wanted people to, cultivate that. And he actually modeled it himself.
Right, leading by example.
Yeah, mastering his own emotions, prioritizing the greater good of Athens, not his own personal gain or popularity,
Wow.
putting Athens first above all else.
That's pretty incredible. So Pericles saw this in ancient Athens, but Greene is saying this isn't just an old problem. He says this tendency for irrationality, it's in our brains.
Right, right. Think about the structure of our brains,
Yeah.
We've got this reptilian brain, the oldest part, basic survival instincts, fight or flight, all that.
Okay, yeah.
Then there's the limbic system. That one processes emotions.
Okay.
And then there's the neocortex, which is the more recent addition evolutionarily. That's where higher level thinking happens.
Okay, so 3 different parts.
Yeah.
But what's the problem then?
Well, there's often a disconnect between the emotional limbic system and our reasoning, the neocortex.
Uh-huh.
So basically, emotions can hijack our thinking. We end up making decisions that later on we're like, why did I do that?
I've definitely been there. Our emotions hit the gas pedal while our rational mind is still searching for the brakes.
Exactly.
And I guess this disconnect, it isn't just a personal issue. It can have, big consequences for society.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the 2008 financial crash.
No.
Greene says that wasn't just, bad policy or greedy bankers. It was everyone failing to be rational.
Interesting.
Millions of people wanting easy money, scared of missing out, made really bad choices that led to disaster.
So we think we're so advanced with all our technology information at our fingertips, but we're still susceptible to those primal urges.
Yeah, pretty humbling, right?
Yeah, it is.
It really highlights why it's so important to understand our own irrational tendencies.
How to do that?
Well, Greene, he calls these tendencies cognitive biases. They're like mental shortcuts, but they can really distort our thinking.
Oh, okay. So blind spots that make us make irrational choices.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm curious. What are some of the common ones we should watch out for?
Let's see. One you've probably experienced is confirmation bias. We tend to look for info that confirms our beliefs, even if those beliefs are wrong.
Right. I think I do that.
Yeah, it's imagine you have a strong opinion about a political candidate, right?
Okay, yeah.
You might find yourself reading news that supports your view, and you kind of ignore stuff that contradicts it.
It's like we build these echo chambers around ourselves,
Yeah.
filtering out anything that challenges our views.
Yeah, exactly. That can make it hard to have productive conversations or to even consider different perspectives.
Right. Very hard. What else is there?
Another common one is conviction bias. That's when we're swayed by how intensely someone's arguing instead of the actual logic of their argument.
Oh, I've totally fallen for that.
Huh.
A good speaker can make anything sound convincing.
Right. Our emotional brains get caught up in the show and we kind of forget to think critically.
I see.
There's also appearance bias. That's probably something we all experience, especially when we're first meeting someone.
So judging a book by its cover.
Exactly. We might assume someone dressed well, who speaks well is more competent, but we don't really have any evidence for that.
Yeah. Or we might be turned off by how someone looks and just dismiss their ideas, even if they're great ideas.
Right, right. These snap judgments, they can really affect our choices and our relationships.
It sounds like these biases are working all the time, like under the surface,
Yeah, they are.
affecting how we see things and the choices we make in subtle ways.
It's important to remember, too, these biases aren't like personal quirks. They're from like way back in our evolution.
Interesting.
They were helpful for our ancestors. Quick judgments and tribal loyalty were essential for survival. But now, in our complex world, they can really mess us up.
So that's the low-grade irrationality, but Greene also talks about high-grade irrationality. What's that about?
He's talking about those times when we just lose it. Our emotions go haywire and we're not thinking straight at all.
Oh, yeah.
Like we say or do things we totally regret later because we were just so angry or scared or whatever.
It's like our emotional system overloads and shuts down all logic and self-control.
Exactly. And Greene, he identifies things that can trigger these extreme emotional states. He calls them inflaming factors.
Oh, okay. So these are like the things that really set us off.
Right. And one of the biggest ones is the presence of trigger points. These are like traumas or experiences from our past that create really intense emotional responses, even if the current situation, like, isn't that similar to the original trauma?
So it's not really about what's happening now. It's about something deeper that's being reactivated.
Right. And just being aware of our trigger points can sometimes help us deal with them better.
Makes sense. What other inflaming factors are there?
Well, sudden gains or losses can throw us off balance, too. Imagine winning the lottery or getting a big promotion.
Okay.
That sudden rush of success, it can trigger euphoria, and we might act impulsively, make risky decisions because we think our luck will just continue.
We get blinded by the excitement and forget to consider the downsides.
Right. And the same can happen with sudden losses, like losing your job or having a financial setback.
Yeah, those are really hard.
They can trigger despair, hopelessness, and then we might avoid taking risks that we need to take to recover. Basically, whether we're super happy or super sad, it distorts how we see risk and reward.
So, are there other things that can trigger this kind of emotional hijacking? Are there certain types of people or situations we should be wary of?
Definitely. Greene points out that rising pressure can reveal hidden flaws and make us more irrational, like deadlines, demanding bosses, or just the stress of daily life. It's like a pressure cooker. The more pressure, the more likely we are to explode.
And I imagine certain personalities can be especially triggering, like dealing with someone who's manipulative or narcissistic. It would be hard to stay calm and rational.
Exactly. Greene calls those inflaming individuals. They could be charismatic leaders or manipulative colleagues or just really assertive or demanding people.
Yeah.
They can disrupt our emotional balance and make us more reactive. It's even harder if there are power dynamics involved. We might feel pressured to go along with their demands even if it feels wrong.
It's almost like their energy is contagious.
That's a good way to put it. It's like we get swept up in their emotional wake.
And that brings us to the group effect. Being part of a crowd can really amplify emotions, making it harder to think rationally.
Right. Like think about the energy at a sporting event or a political rally.
Oh, yeah.
The emotions of the crowd, they're contagious, and we're more likely to do something impulsive, not think critically.
It's like our individual rationality gets drowned out by the collective emotional wave of the crowd.
Exactly. So we've got these inflaming factors, these external things that can really send our emotions into overdrive.
Okay, so we're in a world of irrationality with all these triggers around us. Is there anything we can do?
Well, the good news is Greene doesn't leave us hanging. He offers strategies for cultivating our own inner Athena, that capacity for rational thought and action.
Okay, so there's hope.
There is.
We'll dive into those strategies in the next part of our deep dive. So we're back, and we're ready to get into the good stuff. How do we actually become more rational? Like, are there concrete steps?
Yeah, there are. Greene, he gives us a 3-step process. It can help us, go from being controlled by our emotions to being more in control. It's tough, though.
Well, nothing worth having comes easy, right?
That's true.
Okay, so where do we even start?
Self-awareness. That's the foundation. It means, like, really getting to know your own patterns, your weaknesses, those biases we talked about.
So it's kind of like looking in the mirror, huh? Seeing all of it, even the stuff we don't like.
Exactly. You have to see those blind spots to, learn to work around them.
Okay, that makes sense. If you don't know yourself, how can you, make good choices.
Right. Without self-awareness, forget about managing your emotions. Forget about rational decisions.
This reminds me of Pericles. He was good at, observing people, but he also seemed to know himself well.
Absolutely. He's a great example of someone who cultivated that inner Athena, remember? He could detach from all the craziness in the assembly. He made decisions based on what Athens needed, not just to be popular.
He put Athens first. Wow, that's a powerful example. So step one is self-awareness. What's next? How do we actually change our behavior?
Next, you got to become aware of those inflaming factors, those triggers, sudden gains or losses, those people who push your buttons. You need to see them coming and figure out how to deal with them.
Okay, so understanding our environment, not just ourselves, but once we know what those triggers are, then what?
Well, maybe you avoid certain people or situations. Maybe you practice stress management stuff like meditation or deep breathing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Maybe you even get professional help if you're dealing with past trauma that's still affecting you.
So step two is being proactive.
Hmm.
Not just reacting to whatever happens, but actually shaping your environment so you're less likely to get triggered.
Right. It's about taking control of your own well-being.
Okay, so we've got self-awareness, we're managing those triggers. What's the third step?
This one might be the hardest. Strengthening your thinking brain, that neocortex.
Oh, okay. So,
Uh-huh.
how do we do that? How do we make our rational muscles bigger?
Well, Greene gives a few suggestions. One is to slow down your reaction time.
Okay, that's interesting.
These days, everything's so fast, information overload, constant demands. We're always expected to react immediately.
Okay, right.
And that leads to, impulsive decisions driven by emotion, not logic. So, even if it's just for a few seconds, pause. Give your rational mind a chance to catch up.
So create a little space between the thing that happens and your reaction.
Exactly.
Do you have any, tips for actually doing that? In the
Yeah.
moment, it's so easy to just react without thinking.
Take a few deep breaths. It calms your nervous system, gives you some distance from the intensity of the situation.
Okay.
You can also try to, step back mentally, see the situation from a third-person perspective.
Oh, interesting. Like you're watching a movie. That could be really helpful in an argument.
Exactly. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. You're training your brain to pause.
I like that. So we slow down our reaction time. What else can we do?
Another good technique is to try to accept people as facts. This is something the writer Chekhov did. He was amazing at portraying flawed characters.
I love Chekhov. But what do you mean, accept people as facts?
Approach people with curiosity, not judgment. Don't try to change them. Just recognize they are who they are.
I see. It's like acknowledging that people are complex, shaped
Yeah.
by their experiences, their motivations.
Exactly. And this acceptance doesn't mean, condoning bad behavior or letting people walk all over you. It just means recognizing they are who they are.
It frees us from the burden of trying to change people, doesn't it?
It does. We can focus on what we can control, our own reactions.
Okay, that's a tough one, but I can see how it would be helpful. So we've got the pausing, and we're accepting people. What else does Greene suggest?
Finding the balance between skepticism and curiosity.
Okay, help me with that. How do you stay skeptical but not become, cynical?
Question everything, your own assumptions and everyone else's. Look for evidence. But at the same time, be open to new ideas. Challenge your own beliefs.
So not blindly accepting everything or dismissing anything that challenges you.
Right. It's that sweet spot
Yeah.
where critical thinking and open-mindedness meet.
That reminds me of the scientific method.
Exactly. And it's this balance that helps us navigate a world full of, information overload and emotional appeals.
It's a powerful idea.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing that Greene's ideas about rationality, they connect with a lot of other thinkers too.
Yeah, definitely. This theme of rationality, it's been around for a long time across different cultures.
The Stoics, for example, they talked about controlling your reactions to external events. True happiness came from accepting what you can't control and focusing on what you can, your own thoughts, your own actions.
And that's a central idea in Buddhist philosophy too, the impermanence of everything, cultivating inner peace, detachment from desires and aversions.
And even modern psychology, like cognitive behavioral therapy, identifying negative thoughts, changing those patterns, thinking and behaving in more rational and adaptive ways.
Right. It seems like the message is pretty consistent across all these traditions.
Real freedom and fulfillment come from mastering your own mind.
Absolutely. It's about realizing we have a choice. We can react instinctively, letting our emotions control us. Or we can pause, reflect, and choose how we respond. A response that aligns with our values and morals.
That's a powerful thought. And I think that choice is what rationality is all about.
It is, and it's a choice we can make every single moment.
All right, so we've explored irrationality, those triggers, and how to cultivate a more rational mind. Now, how do we actually use these tools in real life? Let's start with relationships.
Yeah, relationships can be tough. They can really bring out our irrational side.
It's like all those biases we talked about, they get even stronger in our close relationships.
Absolutely. It's easy to misread things, jump to conclusions, get defensive.
And that's where that whole seeing people as facts thing comes in handy, right?
It can be really helpful. Remember, it's not about being cold or ignoring bad behavior.
Right.
It's more about trying to understand the other person, their needs, their motivations.
So like when your partner's upset or a friend criticizes you, you don't just react. You take a step back.
Exactly.
Try to figure out what's really going on. It's almost like being a detective.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it can help, to calm things down, create understanding. Instead of saying, you're always so negative, you could say, I sense you're feeling stressed. What's going on?
Yeah, that changes the whole tone of the conversation. It's less about blame, more about empathy and understanding.
Right. And this detachment thing, it's not just about the other person. It's about managing your own reactions, too. When you can observe your own emotions, you're less likely to just, explode.
So it comes back to that self-awareness again.
Always. And remember those inflaming factors.
Mm-hmm.
Triggers, sudden changes, difficult personalities. They can really stir up trouble in relationships.
Big time. So what do we do?
Know your trigger points.
Yeah.
Figure out ways to handle them. Maybe you need a timeout when things get heated. Or some deep breaths to calm down. You could even have a signal with your partner when you need a break.
Like a safety plan for your emotions.
Exactly. And when you're self-aware, you can communicate better. You can say, hey, this topic is setting me off. Can we talk about it later?
This approach to relationships feels a lot different from, the romantic ideal we see in movies.
Oh, yeah. This is about bringing awareness, being intentional. Love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. Showing up for each other, working through the hard stuff.
A more realistic, grounded view of love, for sure. Okay, let's talk about work now.
Work can be a real challenge for rationality, too.
Definitely.
Office politics, power struggles, deadlines, demanding bosses. It's easy to get caught up in the drama.
And make bad choices.
Yeah.
Especially under pressure. So how do we stay rational at work?
Strategic thinking. Greene talks about that a lot.
What does that look like in practice?
Take a step back. Consider all your options. What are the potential consequences? Try to detach from your initial emotional reaction.
So not just going with your gut or what everyone else is doing, more like a systematic approach.
Yeah, like the scientific method for decision-making.
Interesting. I bet Pericles used that a lot, making huge decisions for Athens, with life-or-death consequences. And yet, he stayed calm, focused on the big picture.
Yeah, he's a great example of strategic thinking. He didn't let fear or popularity sway him. He stayed focused on his goals.
That's a leadership model we could all learn from. So besides making decisions, are there other areas at work where rationality helps?
The pressure to conform, a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, going along with a group, even when you have doubts. Especially hard in those top-down companies.
That's when you need the courage to dissent.
To speak up, even if it's unpopular.
Yeah. Sometimes rationality means challenging the way things are.
But how do you do that effectively? Especially with, authority figures.
Find the balance between being assertive and diplomatic. Stick to the facts, present your case clearly, and frame it in a way that aligns with the company's goals.
So instead of saying, this is a terrible idea, you say, I'm worried about the risks. What about these alternatives?
Exactly. Be constructive. Offer solutions, not just complaints. And remember, you don't always have to shout. A well-placed question or a thoughtful email can be just as powerful.
I like that. Having the courage to dissent. It's about staying true to your values, even when it's hard.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about relationships, work, all those external things. But what about our own internal world? Our thoughts, our feelings?
Mindfulness. That's a big one. Being able to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
So not getting swept away by every thought and emotion.
Right. They're just mental events. They come and go.
We notice them, but we don't let them control us.
Exactly. And this can be really helpful for dealing with difficult emotions like anxiety, anger, fear.
Instead of saying, I'm so anxious, you say, I'm noticing anxiety right now. What's causing this? What can I do to feel better?
Exactly. That shift in perspective from I am my emotions to I am observing my emotions It creates space. You're not trapped by your feelings. You have choices.
That's a powerful idea. Mindfulness really is about taking back control of your inner experience.
It is. And the more you practice it, the more peace and stability you find. You become less reactive, more resilient, ready to face whatever life throws at you.
This has been an amazing conversation. We've covered so much. Irrationality, biases, practical strategies, applying all this to relationships, work, and even our inner world.
It's been great.
And it's not just about making better decisions, it's about transforming our whole relationship with ourselves and the world.
It really is. Becoming more aware, intentional, empowered, recognizing that we have a choice to react or respond, to be ruled by emotions or to choose reason.
That's a powerful choice. And I think it's the key to living a more fulfilling life.
I agree. And remember, this is a journey. Keep practicing, keep learning. There will be setbacks, but keep striving for a more rational life.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into rationality. Remember, the power to choose a more rational path is always within you.